Happy Sunday. Hi, Raquel. I'm so excited. I was saying in the background, we were chatting a little bit. I'm so excited for you to be here. I usually just start with letting you introduce your character, your series. If you want to show the individual books, tell us about the schedule of one coming out, whatever you want to fill us in on.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Raquel V Reyes. I am hold on. There's my phone. Let me turn that off. I am the author of the Caribbean Kitchen Mystery Series. The first one is Mango, Mambo, and Murder. And this one won a Lefty Award. It was International Latino Book Award winner, and it was optioned for film. And yeah. And now that the writer's strike is over, hopefully that will go back into happening, because it was on hold for that, of course. But anyhow, so in this one, you're going to meet Miriam Kones. She is a food anthropologist. She is married to Robert Smith. They met in New York City, and they have a small child named Manny. So she finishes up her PhD, and the little New York City apartment gets a little too small, And so Robert says, well, let's move back to my home in Miami. And he lives in a little village inside of Miami that's very elite. And his family is one of the founding families of this village, and he has a lot of privilege in it. Now, she is also from Miami, even though they didn't meet when they were living in Miami. She's from Hialeah, which is about 10 miles away, another city within the larger part of Miami. And that's very working class and very Spanish speaking. And so a lot of the character conflict and tension in this book has to do with those two opposing cultures and forces. And also, Robert comes back after having been away. He's been a professor. He's been doing it on his own and struggling. And he comes back to the lap of luxury where everyone knows his name, and he can do and he can play golf all day if he wanted to. And people are offering him jobs left and right. And so this first book is really about coming back and trying to find their place as a blended family. Because one of Robert's old girlfriends causes some problems. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to give any spoilers away. But there is murder in this one for sure. It's in the title. There's definitely murder. So the second book in the series, Calypso Corpses and Cooking, with our lovely pumpkins, happens in the fall. It happens actually just a few months after this one. So you don't have a lot of time, but she's a little more established. In the first book, Miriam's best friend, Alma, who's a realtor and kind of connected and knows everyone, she gets her a job at Un Mundo, which is a Spanish language network in the book, doing a cooking segment on the morning show. So by the time we get to this book, a job that she thought was going to be temporary has basically turned permanent. And even though Miriam really wanted to go into the university and teach and so forth and be a professor, she's finding that she really likes the flexibility and the fun that she can have with her cooking show. And her cooking show, she gives cultural tidbits. She talks about how the food is cooked differently from island to island, but how it's all related because of where it came from. She uses her anthropology degree to kind of talk about culture, the culture of the Caribbean and so forth. So in the second book, it's a lot of fun because it happens the week before October and ends in Thanksgiving. And so we get to have a nice Halloween scene in here with all the trick-or-treaters and so forth. That was like I loved writing that scene. Because, you get to describe the costumes and all that fun stuff. So just for the fun of it, I will show you Miriam in her Halloween costume.
Oh, that is awesome.
In the book, she's Chef Vampira, is how she dresses up. and she makes a little apron with beet juice on it that looks like blood, and she hands out candy, and this is her little outfit.
That is amazing.
So I just made this just to have like a visual to have fun with, you know? So that's
really cool.
Yeah. And then this book, you don't have to have read this one to read this one. But there were some all the threads are tied up in this one, but loosely tied. So you get some of those threads in the second one really, really, done for. So these are a nice pairing right here to go together. And then the next book in the series, Barbacoa, Bomba, and Betrayal, this one comes out in November 7th, which is like just around the corner.
Yes.
And this one happens in Puerto Rico. So it's been 3 years since this one.
Oh.
We're doing the pandemic jump, right? So in the beginning of it, we kind of mention, the pandemic has happened. Things are getting back into swing. We don't dwell on the pandemic, but we do mention it. Because I think we all went through it and we kind of have to acknowledge it, because all of my books are contemporary and they do happen in places that I do name actual places. So there's certain things in Miami, like if it's a recognizable landmark, I mention it. Even though the village of Coral Shores is fictional, it's kind of based on a couple of different places all mixed together. But, if there's a historic landmark, I will mention it. So I felt like I had to stay contemporary and mention the fact that we all went through globally this thing. But anyway, so this whole time through all of this, the first two books, Miriam has moved back to Miami, but her parents have left Miami. Her parents have moved to the Dominican Republic. They're property managers for a vacation rental. So here she is with this kid and, going, oh, I wish my parents were here so that, they could all, so forth and so on. So it's Christmas in this one when this opens. Actually, it's the day after Christmas. It's the day after Christmas when this one opens. And there's one last present under the Christmas tree. And Robert says, honey, I think there's something in the Christmas tree. And Manny runs over and gets it and pulls it out, and it's airplane tickets. So he's gifted Miriam a trip to go see her parents that she hasn't seen because of the pandemic and so forth and so on. So she goes to the Dominican Republic with Manny. It's great, wonderful, so forth and so on. While she's there, she starts noticing some things at the vacation property that, she's like, is somebody sabotaging this? There's this pipe that keeps breaking. And the dad is super frustrated. He's like, I've fixed it 3 times and there's all these other stuff. So that's the beginning of one of the little mysteries in this one. But she's only there for a couple of days. And then she gets an email from her director and says, hey, we need you over in Puerto Rico. Didn't you read your emails? And she's like, oh. So she has to get over there. That's a whole little thread that I run through here is Robert is not the best at communication. So I play with some really fun miscommunications between the two of them. But anyhow, so she leaves Manny with the parents in the Dominican Republic. She flies over to Puerto Rico, and she's there a few days before, one day before New Year's Eve. And as she's there, she's walking through Old San Juan. Well, she gets to Old San Juan, and as she walks up to her bed and breakfast, where she's supposed to stay, Un Mundo has a bed and breakfast that they keep for all of the talent. She sees the flapping of the yellow tape of the do not cross.
Ooh.
There's been a body found in the alley, and she's like, I can't get away from it. It finds me, And so that's how we start off that part. And luckily, 2 of her friends are there. Alma and Jorge is there. And so she has her little crew with her that she's able to go off and solve things. There's a lot of culture in this one. There's a lot of fun. I lived in Puerto Rico and spent a lot of time in Old San Juan. So I really enjoyed writing this book for that. Really, really loved writing that part about it. I love Puerto Rico. It's a great place. So, yeah, and then this is a Three Kings Day event that they're filming, which Three Kings Day is a really big holiday in Latin America and Latin Caribbean. So I got to have fun with that. And yeah, coming out soon.
Cannot wait. Oh my gosh. I just want to say you mentioned it. You were talking about the two worlds kind of clashing.
Mm-hmm.
The mother-in-law is like the most hated character of anyone I've read in a cozy mystery.
Good.
That's just because most cozy mystery people are lovely and great. And if they're not, they're usually, gone.
Yeah.
But excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm getting over something. But holy, she's really like, yeah, she can make you really. Yeah,
well, well, I talk about that it's based in reality, and the passive aggressiveness and some of the things that she said have been said to me in my own life. So it's funny sometimes when I read a comment that says she's over the top, and I'm like, no, I could have really gone over the top, but I really kind of kept her, in that. And, there are people like that. I think everybody has people like that in their family. And how do you navigate that? And I've gotten some really lovely comments from reviewers who have said that I write family really well. And I'm thankful for that. I mean, I didn't set out doing that, but I'm so glad that people see that and get that from my books. Cozies are character driven. You need to love the characters that are in them. You need to connect with the characters that are in them. Miriam is a Cuban American. She uses Spanglish. Not every reader is going to connect with that, but they will connect with something about her. And if they're connecting with that family aspect, how much she honors family and wants to have that larger family, I hope that works for them if they're not able to exactly see themselves as a Cuban American food anthropologist with a cooking show on the Spanish language network, right?
I it's so funny because was huge. I had never really known about anthropology when I went to college. So like from high school to college, I'd never, and I took Anthropology 101 and I was hooked. Like I told my parents I'm going to major in anthropology and they're like, you're going to do what now? And, they're like, not that we can stop you, but no, you're not, sort of thing. And but I took multiple because I just loved it so much. The practice, the idea, the exploring other cultures and learning about other places. I just loved that. So I already really related to Miriam in a lot of ways. But I think that the relationship, even though it was different in the ways that they were, the mother-in-law was horrible to her, was still relatable in the fact that you probably have someone that maybe doesn't treat you always the way you want to be treated, whether that's because of your background or something else. Doesn't really matter. But I think it makes me like Miriam even more that she essentially puts up with it because of Manny and her husband, and that makes me respect her and kind of, even more than I already did.
Well, we don't have to navigate that, right? I mean, just in our own human lives. Yeah. And, in the first book, she's really like thrown into it and her head is spinning like, I was not expecting this. And then her parents aren't there, so she doesn't have backup. Luckily, she reconnects with her aunt and her cousin, her prima, which is lovely. She's got some family there. Now in book 2, because I saw everybody in book 1 was like, oh my God, I would have, told that woman off.
Yeah.
Well, you say you would tell her off, but maybe you really wouldn't. But in book 2, she puts down some boundaries to, one, protect herself and to also protect Manny. And but she still has to go to the occasional family dinner, right? And so, it's like you can put up like a barrier on the bridge, but let's not burn the bridge down, kind of a thing. So yeah.
Well, and I think that the people that said she's over the top, it was interesting because I think she's exactly how somebody who would try to portray themselves as not really that person, but is that person would behave. That to me is exactly how somebody who, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, she's very much about being a founding family.
Yeah.
This is her town. She runs the women's club, which, we should mention, the first book, Miriam has to go to, her mother-in-law always like pushes her into things. And because Miriam is kind of a peacekeeper and doesn't want to make too much waves, she's like, I don't want to go to the women's club luncheon, but I will. And her best friend Alma pulls her over there. And poor Miriam, she's been there less than a week. She sits down 30 minutes into the lunch. This isn't giving anything away. It's in it. The lady next to her drops dead, face into the chicken salad. And that's how Miriam's life starts in Coral Shores.
Yeah.
And in the second book, Calypso Corpses and Cooking, the mother-in-law, with 2 weeks notice to the women's club annual fundraiser, says, well, I need somebody to plan the menu because the other person who did it can't. Here. And just throws it at her. Luckily, she's made friends. She has Alma. She's made a friend in Pepper. She reconnects with her high school friend Marie, who's Haitian and has a food truck. And they pull it together and they do a food truck event. So that's also another fun thing about Calypso Corpses and Cooking is I got to have fun like naming all the food trucks. Because like a good cozy, if you're not using alliteration like I am, you're using puns. But I think food trucks use puns too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
before I ask you something else, there's a lot of people that want to say hi, so I'm gonna hop in here. Hi, Regina. Cajun says, hello, everyone. Hi, Cajun. Lou says, hello. Hello, Lou. Regina says, I love the Caribbean Kitchen series. Yes, me too, Regina. I can't wait for the new one. Susan says, hello, just joined in. Hi, Susan. The covers on the books are so good.
Oh, thank you. I don't have any control over that, really.
Which is amazing because they do a great job. I love all the color. I think they do a great job. Whoever your cover artist is, I think they really do it justice. And like she mentioned, number 2 is Halloween, so it's the perfect time to get caught up so that you're ready for book 3 in November. Just saying. If not, I can't wait for book 3. Hey, Melissa. Hi, Lori. Her mother-in-law. I know she really is just awful. I actually did major in anthropology. That is amazing. That is really cool. There we go. Oh, there we go. Hello.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. So are any of your characters based on real people to you? I mean, there might be combinations, but
Sure. I mean, I think we get inspiration from them. So the character of Jorge, Jorge or George, depending how you want to say it, he is Honduran in the book, but he's loosely based on the son of someone I know who's Colombian. And I remember when I met him, a dozen years ago or whatever, he was doing a race during, I think it was during Pride Month, where he ran in high heels, ridiculous stilettos. And that always kind of just embedded in my head. And so I kind of brought that in with Jorge, just to have this really wonderfully confident character. And so there's a little bit of him in Jorge, and a little bit of another one of my friends who is a hairstylist. So there's a little bit of my hairstylist friend.
Oh, I love that
too. So yeah. And then who else? I mean, some of the family members are just kind of generic memories of, you know, tias and tios and things like that. I wish I had a prima like Yoli, who ran a little coffee, little restaurant. That would be cool, but I don't. Right.
Are you can just like wink, but are any of the victims like, you know, you're like, oh?
Well, I always like to, so, you know, I'm really like okay with a bad person getting it, you know? And in the first book, I don't really hide who the villain is, right? And the people who want, at least the first person who dies in Mango Mama and Murder, she is a true victim of circumstances, of people not being thoughtful, of people being bullies, and so forth and so on. So, you know, it's like you take something and you pull it out to its extremity. So thankfully, no one I've known who's been bullied has been pushed themselves, you know, to die from it. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't have gone there. You know, I know that a lot of readers like to know about trigger warnings and so forth. In the first book, the first victim, she's recovering from an eating disorder. And the bully really kind of pushed and prodded and continued to do that even into her adulthood, you know, kind of like a frenemy. And so those are real situations that really do happen, and have happened to people that I love and people that I know and people that are in my circle. So yeah, sometimes I take little bits of that and I just, you know, blow it up bigger.
Yeah. Do you think that you yourself would make a good sleuth? Do you read a lot of mysteries?
Oh, sure. I don't think you can be a writer without having read what you know. Sure, you know, aren't we all internet sleuths? Don't we all figure that out? You know, I think it's something about recognizing a pattern. And it's funny, you know, I can watch a movie and kind of guess the next thing that's going to happen in the plot. Now, I don't know if that's my natural instinct or if that's just because I've read, you know, all of these books, and, you know, you recognize a pattern and you go, oh, I think I know who did it.
Yeah, no, I must not have that gene, because like somebody could have like the pointer on them, and I'd be like, it's that person.
I love that though. I love that because I think so like as a writer, I have to write for both types of people. Like there's some people who read and they want to figure it out. They want to figure it out. They're reading everything and they're logging every single little category and so forth and so on. You know, every clue, they're looking at every red herring, this, that, and the other, right? And then they get upset with you sometimes because they figured it out. But I'm like, but that's what you wanted to do. And then there's other people who don't at all. They're there to go along for the ride, you know?
Well, I'm very character driven. You mentioned it earlier, like, and that's one of the reasons I love cozies. I mean, there's numerous reasons, but one of them is that I like coming back to the same place and see what Miriam is doing this time, what Alma's got her into, what, you know what I mean? And visiting them and finding out. I'm very character driven. So yes, I like the mystery, but it's very secondary for me. Mm-hmm. However, because I feel like I never figure it out, I have consolation in now that I just suspect everybody, no matter who they are. That's even good. Miriam, until she can prove to me that she was where she said she was. No, I'm kidding. She's guilty. Because otherwise, I have no chance. I have no chance.
I'm not doing you know, I'm not writing a domestic suspense with an unreliable narrator. That Miriam is not going to become an unreliable narrator for you people. She's going to,
You know,
even though Tiffany thinks otherwise, she's not.
I just have to keep my options open for everybody because it's the only way that I can honestly say in the end I was right. But yeah, I mean, and I I thought I was better at details, so I'm like, oh, I maybe I wouldn't make the best sleuth, but I know a lot of authors, like you said, I feel like they say, like people watch TV with them and they watch, a murder mystery show and their spouses or their partners or whoever are like, oh, because they're already predicting who it is 5 minutes into it. They're like, oh, it's that person, they're like a Jessica Fletcher.
Yeah.
So when you write, do you have an outline? Are you, a pantser? How does that flow for you?
I am a plantser. I have a skeleton structure. I know the beginning. I know the end. I know a few key things. Usually how the story develops. The seed of the story is usually a scene. That's how I start. Like I know a scene comes to me and that's how I build everything around it. For Mango, Mambo, and Murder, it was the woman falling into the pit. For Calypso, Corpses, and Cooking, it was Miriam wakes up one morning. She hears a scream outside. A jogger is looking into her front yard. They finally decorated, right? And on one of these comical tombstones that they had put in their front yard, there's a body laid out. And so that was the scene that came to me because I was like, well, that's funny. That's funny. The tombstone says something funny. The body is not funny. Sorry that the woman's been hit over the head, but the scenario of it is funny, right? And then for Barbacoa, Bomba, and Betrayal, that was more of a feeling. Like I just had the feeling of old San Juan because like I said, I had lived there and like walking in the streets and the small alleys and like I could have fun with that, like turning the corners and the history of it and so forth and so on. So that one was more of like a feeling than a specific action scene. And then I just there's another thing that I do have, which is I open my books with a domestic scene, usually between Robert and Miriam, or Miriam and her friend, usually in her home. But I end the book with a larger family gathering so that we can tie up all the loose ends. Have you watched Murder in Paradise? Do you ever watch that show? Which is also, they wrote books about it afterwards.
Yes.
And, it was always a little contrived when he goes in there and gathers all of the victims and then has that conversation. You need it because you need to know what happened, but it was a little contrived. So I use that ending family gathering to, if there's just something that maybe the reader might have missed, it allows me to have someone ask the question, well, what happened to this and why did that happen? And then Miriam or Detective Pullman can explain it. And it just allows to like clear so that everybody leaves happy knowing what happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's actually that's a great idea. I didn't make the connection, but that's actually a great idea. Cajun said, if you didn't like the cover or felt it was not appropriate to the story, would the publisher consider that and change it?
Publishing is on a timeline, right? And every publisher is different. So the way my covers work is they ask me for some ideas, right? So I send them a Word document that has like a few key scenes, or like small scenes, not like long scenes, just a few key scenes. I give them some ideas for settings and so forth. And then I put some pictures in there too, like reference pictures. Just like I really had hoped that we were going to have a flamboyant tree in one of these. So every time I always put that as a reference, and I never get it. I never get my tree. But anyway. And then I don't hear from them for like months, right? And then a sketch comes, and you look at the sketch, and it's a black and white sketch, I should say, and you go, okay. And that's when they'll either say, oh, well, we don't like this little thing. We're planning on changing that. And that's where you can say something's not right. So, okay, let me see. In this one, the shutters, they like had cutouts in them. And I forget if it was like a pineapple or a palm tree or something. They had a cutout in it. And I was like, that's gorgeous, but that does not match the neighborhood that she's living in. Like, that home would never have something so rustic. So luckily we're going to change it. Oh, and another thing was, I said, well, they get a kitten. We have to have the kitten in here. And then they had something on the back shelf, maybe like a stack of bowls. Maybe there was more fruit bowls or whatever. And I said, can we have cookbooks? I mean, she has a cookbook collection. That's what she does. She's a food anthropologist. And I said, and if we could have the lizard, because the cat chases the lizard. So now we have the cat and the lizard. And so down that one. On this one, when this one came, the color version of it came, I loved it because it kind of feels like it glows. Like this one, I was just like, oh, gorgeous. But the one thing about this was the door, right? The door in the original, again, was like all wrong. And I was like, that door does not exist in Miami. And anybody who's been through Miami would like, that's not, So I sent them some pictures of what the door should look like, mid-century modern and so forth. And so they changed that. And I was like, thank you. Exactly. This one, the lizard is still here, but they gave the cat a spider to chase after. There's always like a flag. So like on this one, it's on the coaster. And this one is carved into the pumpkin, which I thought was a brilliant idea. I didn't come up with that. That's what the designers came up with. This one was a little bit more difficult. I had sent them a lot of pictures. I kind of hoped that like in the background, we would see the street parade because there's a big festival, the Three Kings Festival that I have made up for this book. They didn't, but they gave us the carved Three Kings Saints, which are it's a craft that they do in Puerto Rico. Oh, wow. We had a mask here, which I loved. But it became too busy. And so they said to me, like, we're almost there. And she's like, we have to change this. We need a food item. And I'm like, okay. And there's so much food in the second book. I gave them all of these things. I sent them all these pictures. But I guess the colors were too similar, like the tostones, and then the chicken and the rice. They were like, it was too monochromatic to read on a thing. And so I said, well, how about a coco frio? And I sent a picture of that. And like instantly I got email and like, perfect. And that was it. So that's how we got the little coco frio right here. This is a cuatro, which is a guitar that they use in Puerto Rican folkloric music. And yeah, some fun stuff. Oh, so back to my tree. Like when this one came out, it seemed a little dark to me. And so on that one chance where we could go and like maybe make a change, they were talking about, oh, we're going to put some flowers or something over here. So I sent them like hibiscus, and I was like, oh, we're going to get a hibiscus on there. We did not get a hibiscus. So no flamboyant tree and no biscuit. I mean, no. So
I mean, they look amazing to us. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the cover.
That's why it's good for me to hear that, because having gone through the process.
Yeah.
So but back to what I was saying is, so you send them this stuff, and then there's months that you don't hear anything. Then you get a black and white sketch, that you go, okay, I can kind of see what's going to happen. And then you don't hear from them. And then a couple months pass and you get the color and you go, okay. And then you have like a week to make. and then they're like, okay, too late.
Sorry.
It is what it is. So it's like silence, 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 silence. Okay, hurry up, and then done.
Yeah. Along with that, so like the titles, I mean, your titles are all alliterations, obviously, but I mean, like, did you come up with the titles? Do you give like 3 or 4 suggestions and it seems like depending on the publisher, there's different control or different levels of participation that the author has.
So this one was originally just Mambo and Murder. This one was originally just like 2 words. And then somewhere along the line, I put the 3rd word in there because they had asked for title suggestions. And so I gave them, they asked for 10. I've never given them 10.
Wow, that's a lot.
I usually give them 5 or 6. For the 4th book, I only gave them 3. I was like, because I am writing some of this stuff into it, and we're not determining the title before I start writing.
Yeah.
The title is coming kind of 3/4 of the way through my writing. And so I'm like, hey guys, it has to relate to it somehow.
Yeah.
So I give them the 3, and it's always it's going to kind of be like a food or cultural thing. It's going to be a song or a dance, and then it's going to be a crime word. So there is a little bit of a formula to it. This one was not the title, my preferred title. My title was Calabazas, Corpses, Calabazas, Calypso, and Corpses. Because calabaza is pumpkin.
Oh.
And so it happened at Halloween, right? And then I was all going to only do pumpkin recipes. Thank goodness. Because I wouldn't have been able to do all of the pumpkin recipes. I mean, that was a lot. I was really being setting a high bar in that. Another one of the ones I gave them an option for this one was Caramelo, which is a caramel candy.
Ooh.
And I thought that one would have been good also because of the Halloween kind of theme, but they went with cooking. And so we kind of switched up the order because I was like, we can't have cooking corpses. Like that doesn't. So we switched up the order a little bit.
That is awesome.
This one, also not my preferred title. I like it, but it wasn't my first choice title, was Breadfruit, Bomba, and Betrayal. So breadfruit is a fruit that grows on a tree, and you use it like a starch. That's breadfruit. I mean, like you use it to make tostones. It's really kind of big. It's called pana, is what they call it in Puerto Rico and some of the other islands. A pan is bread in Spanish. It's just, it's kind of like a staple food. You cut it, you fry it up. It's filling, it's starchy, it's breadfruit. It's delicious too. I've even seen some people make into like a taco shell. Slice it thin, they fry it, and then they let it fold because it can fry up and have a nice crispness to it, like a tortilla. So anyway, so that was that one. But barbacoa is a Taino word for barbecue. So we get barbecue from barbacoa. So it fits in nicely with Miriam's anthropology stuff. So
I have to ask, this was like a few months ago, but you are on the Cozy Mystery Crew.
Right.
And you, on one of your days, asked, which is a Facebook group that is amazing, made up of fabulous authors.
12
so
of
if
us,
you haven't joined, you have to join Cozy Mystery Crew. But each author does a different day. And one of your days, you asked about suggestions for a band. And I can't remember, something about Miami and punk, maybe, or something. Is that for book 4? And did you choose something?
I did choose something. It was for a short story. So it's for a short story that is going to be coming out sometime early next year in an anthology. And I wrote a PI in the 80s, and she's on Miami Beach. And there used to be a punk club on Miami Beach. And
is that true? There really did used to be?
There used to be, like a venue, like a concert venue. It was an old movie theater that had been converted into a concert hall. It was called the Cameo. I changed the name for the short story, but anyway, I forget what I named it, but I remember the comments that I got, the suggestions that I got, really did get the fire going to be creative about it. So yeah,
I love it. I can't. Yeah. Ivy said one of my new favorite series. Yes, Ivy, it's so much fun. It's so. And Regina says running stilettos is nothing. Regina would know. She owns like 800 pairs, so that's probably that's probably a low count. I'm not sure, but but I think, Regina, it's all about how often you may do it, because you would be, fine. I would be on the curb waiting on somebody.
I would have had to twist an ankle before I even got off the starting block or whatever. Yeah.
I'm always sharing little tidbits from your books. I've learned about the different Latin Caribbean culture. So thank you for making me look really smart. I love that.
I love it too. Thank you. That's like kind of the point of my sharing all of the things is we can't know everything, and that's one of the things I loved about cozies when I was reading before I was writing them, and I was just, devouring them, was I always chose the cozies that I could learn something interesting. I tended to go for the ones that were a little bit more cultural or artsy, and I just loved learning about some of them were like antique people who owned and I just remember all these little tidbits about antiques and history. I was like, oh, I'll file that away. That's such a cool little thing to know.
Yeah. We did a trivia night not too long ago, and I was able to answer a question because of a cozy mystery series about beekeeping. And I was like, my books have paid off.
There you go. I love that. That's awesome.
You just said, I'm a figure it out kind of girl, but I keep coming back because of characters and settings I love, and figuring out is a bonus fun for me. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, it's so good, Melissa. Hey, Sonia. She says, hey, bestie. Hello, Raquel. So nice to meet you. Regina, girl, I can't even walk in the much less run. Exactly. I know. That's what I'm saying. Glad that you get input on the covers. Yeah. Hello. Love the touch of the flag on each cover. Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't even know. I'm going to have to go back and look at the pumpkin one, because the first one I did notice, but the pumpkin, until you said that, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when the skull, little, on people's covers. I did not even realize that. That's really awesome. So, this is a little just, go with me on this. But if something were to happen to you and it was nefarious, someone murdered you, sorry, let's knock on wood. Because, who would you want? I know it's a little morbid. Who would you want, though, to solve your crime? What fictional detective would you think, oh, I want that person on the case? From a movie, a book.
Detective Perez from Shetland, from the Shetland series, but that's darker.
Oh,
I love Anne Cleves, and I love her Shetland series. Love. But I'm not on Shetland Island, so he's not coming to solve my case.
Well, I mean, it could be anybody. So you can say that.
Well, in my series, Detective Frank Pullman, he looks like Humphrey Bogart but black. He is always poking at Miriam. He calls her Veronica. from Veronica Mars. Like, I have not seen that show. I don't know what you're talking about. You know, it was kind of like not really her. She missed it, right? And so she says, well, I'm more of a Jessica Fletcher, because she watches Jessica Fletcher with her mom, and she translates some of the stuff that her mom, maybe the little things her mom doesn't get when they were kids. And then we in the book that's coming out, she gets a new nickname, which is Velma. And they say, and they're like, come on, that fits. Velma's smart. You're smart. You know, the whole thing. So for me, it would probably be between Velma and Veronica. I think Veronica Mars, I love her. I love that series. But like, I don't think I'm going to die from that kind of teenage drama. So I'm going to go with something funny, and the Scooby team can figure it out for me.
It's a classic. I mean, Velma's a classic. So, I mean, yeah. No, I think that's, I always say Columbo because I just like, I like Columbo because everybody thinks he's this bumbling guy that never has a clue. And he's always right on top of it. And they'll even have scenes where they think they got away with it. They're like, yeah, the detective has no idea. And then he gets them in the end with that. Oh, one more thing. Love it.
That's a great show. It is a great show. Yeah.
I love it. Somebody is totally in agreement. Jimmy Perez, he can come across the pond. Yeah. I've never seen Shetland because I'm the biggest scaredy cat in the world. And anything beyond Jessica Fletcher or Columbo or Scooby-Doo, like no kidding, the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown is right at my spice level for scary. So
that series, it just almost goes to Nordic noir because of the setting, because of the darkness, because of the shadows. But it's darker in theme, but I don't think it's too far out, like gore wise, because I don't like gore either. I don't like gore, but I can handle a little bit of suspense and tension, you know, not too much though. I don't really like spy films for that reason. Like spy movies, like have me biting my nails, like that level is too high.
Yeah, no, I
don't enjoy that.
I'm with you. I'm with you. My friends, even this time of year, because, you know, it's Halloween, of course. They're like, you don't like being afraid? I'm like, no, I don't like the emotion of fear. Why would I pay somebody to scare me? I'm like, no.
You know, every year I don't go to the movies as often as I used to, but when I used to go, I hated September because that's when they started playing all of the horror film trailers. And I literally cover my eyes and put my fingers in my ear and go, just touch my knee when it's done, and I'll, you know, come back out, because I don't like it. I don't like that type of. I don't want to jump scare. I don't want to jump scare.
I'm with you. I actually, it's so funny that you said that, because I just I have a lot of streaming services, and I emailed Peacock about a month ago and was like, you need to either be able to skip ads, because I have ads, which I'm not saying skip over the ads. I'm saying skip to a different ad.
Right.
Or like you need to read a room. I'm like, if you look at my history, I got Will and Grace, you know, Friends. I don't know. I mean, pick like any Family Matters.
I'm watching the Great British Bake Off.
I'm not jumping to Saw.
I'm not, exactly. Great British Bake Off is not Saw. They're No. I'm with you on that.
You know, you really need to, you know, think about that, especially
start
because
a petition.
Parental controls. But I would be really freaked if my kids saw that. I don't have children, but I'm just saying, like, there just needs to be something that, you know, I'm with you. I am 100% with you. Nope. I hate all the horror movie previews right now. I'm a scaredy cat too. Yes. Totally. So you mentioned earlier, because this is always a question, because I want people, you know, I want to help people. And I feel like this is help for authors to be prepared. But you mentioned that they were already looking for movie rights to the series before the strike. Yeah. if they were to come to you, and I'm sure that this is going to be their next question, Raquel, who were you thinking to star in the show? Now, I know 100% that this is going to be their next question. Just go with me on it. Who would you be thinking?
I don't know any of the younger actors who would play her, because she's 32 when it starts. So we can't, but I do describe her a little bit like Sophia Vargas. In book one, that's a little bit, she's like this Barbie. She's not a skinny mini thinny. She's a woman with some curves on her. So, but I don't know who that would be, because I don't follow the celebs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's hard to ask unless they are an older character, because I'm like you. When I go to the grocery store, I'm like, who's that? Like on the cover, I have no idea anymore.
Like Selena Gomez couldn't even, for Murders, but she would be too old in theory to be playing, like they would want an actor who is a little younger, and I don't know who that cohort of actors would be.
Yeah, right now. I don't either. Interesting.
Yeah. But better
it's question so fun to see who
they play the mother-in-law. Who would play the mother-in-law? Who could bring some humanity to the mother-in-law that we all love to hate? Because she can't be she can't be two-dimensional. She has to be three-dimensional.
I think the issue is then I'm jumping to much older, because I'm like, ooh, yeah. But then like I'm thinking way too old, like Diane Keaton, but that's way too old.
She would only be just hitting 60.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry, Diane Keaton. I don't mean that you're,
because Robert is the baby and he's 38, so she couldn't be 65. Because Robert has two older brothers. She could be 65, but I wouldn't put her much beyond that. So who would that be?
Yeah.
Maybe a little young for it, but think how good Reese Witherspoon could play the mother-in-law. Did you ever see her in, was it Election? Did you see that one where she played all so sweet and perfect, and she was the mastermind and just terribly awful behind it? Yeah. She can play that really well. That like Southern, bless your heart, and really like be stabbing you.
Well, it's totally different direction. What about Sandra Bullock?
Ivy says Jenna Ortega. She's a little young though. That's the thing. Like there's like this young group, and then there's like this older group of Latinas, and I don't know who the sweet spot is. So, the voice actor who does my audiobooks is also an actor, and she would be really lovely at it. Frankie Corso. Frankie Corso is my voice actor who does the narration for the audiobooks, and she's lovely. So there you go.
The girl, I cannot think of her name, but the girl who was the coach on The Voice last year.
I don't watch The Voice. Somebody in the comments, anybody know? Everybody go to your phones.
Yeah. And the other person is, what about Sandra Bullock for the mother-in-law?
She could. She did have like frosted blonde hair in one movie, didn't she? She could do that. I always think of her as a brunette, but she could go blonde for it. She could. She could do that role very well, for sure.
There's so many people. It's and I think Detective Frank, I mean,
yeah, he's a fun character because he's just so, he keeps his cards close to his chest,
I love
their little relationship that they have.
I do. I like them together because it's usually I feel like they have a very bantering relationship, but it's not enemies and it's not we're in love. And I like that they just have this, a little bit of pokey fun at, each other or whatever, so to speak, or him or her. But, I really like their relationship. Oh, somebody, okay, hold on.
J-Lo?
Bless your heart definitely has more than one meaning for sure. True, Lou. Down here, bless your heart. Really, yeah, I really mean it. Lori says J-Lo. She looks so good for her age, but
that's the problem. She looks amazing. Also, I think she works out like 10 hours a day to do that with, a private chef and a trainer all the time. She'd have to enjoy herself and eat some breadfruit to play the role of Miriam.
Oh, there's so many possibilities. It's going to be so fun. I love to see who they choose in these movies because they just did Alexia Gordon's musical.
I love who they chose.
And I was a huge Sister Sister fan growing up. I loved Sister Sister. And so I was so excited to see I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Here's a question. Who would play Manny, the perfect child? Manny is the 4-year-old and he is the perfect child. They would have to like pick a kid who isn't bratty, like they couldn't write that character as bratty because he's the sweetest kid.
Oh my
There's a lot of fun characters. Yeah. Well, and then there's Alma.
Yeah.
I think J-Lo could play Alma. Alma has a lot of like go out and get it kind of happen, like nothing's going to stop Alma from doing things. So J-Lo could play Alma for sure. I like that idea.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like she's maybe too young, but Kristen Wiig would also be somebody who could do the mother-in-law.
Oh no, I think she could play the mother-in-law for sure.
But she might be good because I think that she's mostly comedy, but I think she can pull it off. I think there
is some comedy to her. Some of the stuff that comes out of
it's so ridiculous.
The mother-in-law's mouth that you're just like, please tell me you're joking.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's so ridiculous. You're like,
exactly.
So I know you were talking about a 4th book. Do you already know that how many books you have contract for coming up still?
I'm contracted for 4. Okay. When the 3rd book comes out, then that's when something might happen. They, publishers are all about, let's see what the demand is and so forth, but you will at least have 4 books in the series. So if you want a 5th book, you guys better get out there and spread the word.
Hear that? Your libraries, pre-order. Oh, exactly. Yes.
There's a magic number. They don't share it with us, but they have a magic number that they want to see. And when it gets to that, that's when they call your agent and say, okay, here's another 2 books or 3 books or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then in your head, before we wrap up, do you have any other series kind of, floating around in there that you're thinking? You can just wink, you don't have to tell us. And this is a question I ask of everybody, or I just share with everybody, because the more I get it out in the world, the more it's going to happen. Everybody is already rolling their eyes. They're like, we know what she's going to say. However, I'm still going to say it. Well, you should think and consider writing a cozy mystery about an amusement park. So let me say, you could kill so many different ways at an amusement park.
So I know an author who writes a middle grade series. It's a middle grade mystery set in the amusement parks.
Really? Yes. What's the author?
It's not published. It's with her agent. It's like Always This Close. I think it might be coming out. but I know there's more than one in the series. So it's a middle grade mystery set in the amusement parks.
Oh my gosh.
And she lives in Orlando, so of course she knows all about the parks.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. It's
Orlando, Florida, where Disney and Universal and Lego and I don't know, like 50 more parks. I don't know. We have a lot of parks up here.
Right. I know it's going to happen. That is so cool. I'm manifesting it into the world. I just know I am. But back to the question. Do you
I do have a standalone that I really want to write that's a little darker. Again, not gory, but definitely not a cozy, not a cozy. And then I have a private detective, a PI series that I had actually been writing before this book got picked up, before this series got picked up. I had been writing my PI series. And if I went back to my PI series, I had it set in contemporary. I think I would go back and set it in the 80s. So that short story that we talked about, that was kind of like me testing the waters to like, because that's what's great about a short story for a writer. And that's also so great about a short story for readers, is that it's a one sitting read. And for me to write a short story, it really kind of only takes me a week instead of months and months and months, to write. So you can test some things out. So that's set in the 80s, and that's my PI character. And so in Miami, because I love Miami, but the 80s in Miami were crazy. And so I think I could have a lot of fun. But, I can't get far away from the humorous. So it's not going to be super dark. I grew up with V.I. Radowski and Stephanie Plum, and so it would be more, there was always a lightness to them, even though some of the encounters could get a little dark. There was still always kind of, like a little bit of humor in there. So I don't think I would get too far away from that. So, and then the other day I came up with a cozy idea for a new cozy series of a mother and daughter team.
Oh, I love that.
And the mom is 40 something and the daughter is like 23 or something.
I would love a team like that. I think that would be, I love that. You see mostly friends, but sometimes you'll see like an aunt or a grandma, but like just mother, daughter, or I think that would be awesome. I'd love that.
So there's plenty, there's always stuff to, pull up from. So we'll see. So,
the third book comes out November 7th, everyone. And before we leave, you're involved. You seem, every time I see you on Instagram, you're like, I'm going to this event. So I know you do a lot of events. Do you have any events coming up live where people can see you? And then tell us, I know, of course, you're Cozy Mystery Queens or crew, but if there's other places they can find you online, other groups, and any other way.
So I am across the social media. I'm Latina Sleuths. So if you're on Instagram, if you're on Threads, if you're on TikTok, and Facebook, you can even type in Latina Sleuths and you'll find my author page. Most of my Facebook time is with the Cozy Mystery Crew. So you can go into Facebook and type in Cozy Mystery Crew and it'll pop up. There's 12 authors and we rotate. So every 3 weeks I have a day. Every 3 weeks they have a day. In February, I will be at Coastal Magic in Daytona Beach, which is a wonderful readers convention where there's, something like 50 authors. And readers can go through and meet all the authors, and there's some panels and so forth. So that's a fun one, and that's relatively close to home for me. I'm in Miami. That's in Daytona Beach. Hopefully I will be at Malice Domestic I hope. I don't know yet. And then I am going to be at VoucherCon in Nashville because I love VoucherCon. It's a great conference. So that's all for right now. And if you happen to be in South Florida, I'm doing a book signing on let me check my day. I believe it's November 11th at the Barnes and Noble in Pembroke Pines. So if you are, but that's all on my Instagram and my Facebook page, or sign up for my newsletter, and you'll find out all about that in my newsletter.
Yay! So November 7th, everybody get your pre-order so we can get more books. We know there's a fourth one. Do you have a date at all for the fourth one? Do you know?
It will be the fall of 2024. That's my books will always come out in the fall for this series. So
gotcha. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm Cajun. Thank you. I know. How many years have I been? 2 years. I've said this to every author that's come on, and I feel like this is a victory.
I'll email you her contact information off of this so you know.
Yes. Last thing. In early December, because I think the later you get into December, there's just so much craziness going on with the holidays and different things. I'm doing a cozy mystery live with several authors, and it's a holiday. It's a general holiday where I ask people to talk about what holiday their main character celebrates, what their traditions are, what their favorite recipes are, if you want to share a recipe. And if you would want to, I would love to have you come on. I can email you a couple different dates once I have it, figured out if you're available.
Cool.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see y'all later. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah.